Sometimes we don't understand what the person we're trying to have a relationship is going through. Sometimes we approach them with our vulnerabilities and they don't know how to respond. And we have to be okay with that. We have to be willing to say, look, I've grown up a little bit. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they are still holding a grudge. Maybe they do not want a relationship with us. And we have to be empathetic to that. We have to understand that, hey, listen, there's a gap here. There's a gap between where I am and where they are. We had a recent scenario where we were working with a family, and there was a mother who has a son that is not speaking to her. And she was heartbroken because she thought, I've changed. I'm happy. I've forgiven him. I've moved on. How come he's not coming around? What we were realizing, and this is a really odd concept, but I want to just throw it out there so you can be aware of it. The mother is at a certain age and her child is at a certain age. And it doesn't matter how many years they each age, there's still going to be a generation gap between them. There will always be a generation gap between them. And so if you're in the 50s and your child is in the 20s or the 30s, they're always going to be 20 or 30 years behind you, right? You might mature and you might get wiser, and they're going to get mature and they're going to get wiser, but they're still going to be 20 or 30 years behind you. They don't have the life experience that you have. And so when you look at a tiny child, and going back to the conversation earlier where we say, oh, I'm fine, when really we should have said, I'm hurting on the inside and I'm trying to resolve this in a grown up sort of way. What happens is, as a grown adult, even as you age, your child is aging as well. And one day they'll reach where you are right now, but you'll be in a completely different space. So we have to realize, even the relationships that we have with other people, there will always be a generation gap between you and your kids, or you and your parents, or you and your grandparents. There will always be a generation gap. And so it's not required that you see eye to eye. So as you go through these relationships of trust, I want you to say, hey, let's hit the reset button, but let's make it with the caveat that it's okay if we disagree. It's okay if we have differences. It's okay if we see things from two different perspectives, right? And by doing that, by making that the safe place where you allow each other to be your own people, growing at your own rate, learning what you know with whatever life's experiences or lack of them that you have, that allows that person to be in their own space, even if there's a generation or two generation gaps between you. Because you cannot expect that somebody that you just hit the reset button on is going to suddenly jump up 30 years to your level, and they're going to know with wisdom the things that you know because you've gone through a school of hard knocks. Not going to happen. I know I told you guys this was a tough conversation. Here we are in the middle of the tough conversation.